Welcome back to the channel, folks. Here's the latest and most important stimulus news that you have to know. So be sure to stay until the end of this video.
So after the latest jobs report dropped last week, the president took to Twitter to tout that this year, quote, "We've created 588,000 jobs per month on average this year, a record." Not only that, unemployment is tumbling faster than expected, falling from 6.3% in January to 4.2% last month, the lowest level since March 2020. Forecasters didn't expect that kind of a drop until 2025, but we're already seeing it now. Why is this important? Because Republicans are successfully portraying Biden as an economic failure and winning elections off the back of that. After the Virginia gubernatorial victory, GOP Representative Jim Banks of Indiana wrote a memo to his colleagues saying, "We must continue to focus on the failures of the Biden economy. Our early focus on runaway inflation and the growing supply chain crisis is hitting home with voters. We need to keep hammering away and work on bringing solutions to the table to address their concerns."
And no accountability. Going forward, drug companies that increase their prices faster than inflation are going to face a steep excise tax. In other words, if you're saying to drug companies, if you're finally doing it because to be accountable, when your prices to the American people go up, you're going to be accountable. This is important.
Now on a different matter. As we begin the first full week in December, there is much that the Senate must attend to before we reach the end of the year. First, Senate Democrats remain committed in taking up and passing President Biden's Build Back Better Act before Christmas. As I outlined in a letter to my caucus this morning, Senate Democrats have been working furiously to clear the necessary steps to achieve this goal. As we all know, the reconciliation process is not an easy one. The reason why this timeline is so important is because this legislation is about lowering costs for American families. As we enter the winter months, American families deserve a little extra help affording things like child care and pre-K. They need help lowering costs of things like prescription drugs and making health care more affordable. And families need to know that critical programs like the child tax credit will continue uninterrupted. This program has already done immense good for millions upon millions of families. Build Back Better will make sure these benefits stay in place. For these reasons, we're going to continue the process until Build Back Better is signed into law. This is arduous work. It takes time, precision, and a lot of pieces moving together. It has taken months of communication, negotiation, countless late nights and weekend workdays to bring us to this point. I want to thank my colleagues, their staff, and the parliamentarian for dedicating the full measure of their attention and talent toward this endeavor. We are close, and we will keep going until the job is done. Other Senate priorities. As we continue working on Build Back Better, Democrats will simultaneously address other year priorities as well. First, we'll continue working as necessary to process President Biden's nominations, both to the federal bench and to serve in key posts within his administration. On that front, today we'll begin consideration of a terrific nominee, Jessica Rosenworcel, tapped by President Biden to serve as chair of the FCC. Ms. Rosenworcel has nearly a decade of experience already as an FCC commissioner and will soon be the first ever woman confirmed to serve as chair, breaking another glass ceiling in our government. She has been a fierce advocate for closing the digital divide, for protecting net neutrality, and when
the Treasury Department is redirecting rental assistance cash from states and localities that haven't used the majority of the funds. Officials said that they will unveil how much money will be exactly redirected in early December. According to administration officers, the amount may exceed $800 million, and will be available on the request of state and localities. A lot of that cash could also be moved inside states, then from one state to another. And this is good news for many Americans that have been worried about being evicted. The Biden administration expects that $20 billion will be spent on the $47 billion in rental assistance funding. And the Treasury Department also said there is less unspent money today than there was 6 months ago. So the rental assistance program also got off to a slow start. And Chuck Schumer promised his chamber will take action on raising the federal government's borrowing limit by December 15th. The Congressional Budget Office has estimated the Treasury will most likely run out of cash before the end of December, if the debt ceiling is not raised. But many Democrats are also upset with Mitch McConnell. He passed a new defense bill and was supposed to be the easy part of Congress's holiday rush, but it's already run into a stumbling block. Democrats have to avoid a government shutdown and raise the debt ceiling and also pass Biden's stimulus bills. But do you think that President Biden is doing all that it takes to send out the fourth stimulus check, folks? I want to know your thoughts.
Besides Build Back Better, what legislation realistically does the president think that Democrats can pass into law before the end of his first year in office?
Before the end of his first year in office. So let's see, next January. Look, there's a lot of steps. It is 6 weeks away. Look, I'm not going to get into the legislative calendar. I leave that to Leader Schumer to take steps on. And I'm not going to give a timeline on it, but the president obviously wants to get his Build Back Better agenda done as soon as possible. He wants to make voting rights a reality. He wants to get police reform done. He wants to ensure that the CHIPS Act passes through and we can ensure that we are taking additional steps in a bipartisan manner to address the supply chain crisis. He wants to get his nominees through. So there's a lot that he would like to see happen in short order, and we're going to continue to work with leaders to do that. Go ahead.
And by the way, since we're talking about children and what they're breathing and all the rest, so much in this legislation that we needed to do anyway, but it falls under the category of climate as well, is replacing lead pipes throughout the country. Our children are drinking water that is laden with lead. They're in schools where lead paint is on the walls. It's an immorality, really, in my view, to have had that continued. And this was a real priority for us to make sure that we were improving the atmosphere for the children, whether it was the air they breathe writ large or the planet in which they live. Anything? Other questions? Yes? Well, I'm not here to go into the negotiation, but we will have what we need in terms of the climate provisions. We'll bring the bill to the floor when we have the votes to bring the bill to the floor, but we're working constantly, 24/7, wherever we are in D.C. or with His Holiness or here today, to shorten the distance between where we need to be and where we are now. But I feel very confident, as the senator indicated, this will get done because it must get done. And we're having those negotiations. Our chairmen are sharpening their pencils as to how we come down with the number. I wish we could stay at the big number, but we can't. And the chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee, Frank Pallone, and as you others